Welcome to Everyday Black Men, a podcast for authentic black thoughts. I am Riker, and while sadly I'm not joined by R-Reed and Armstead, I created this episode that I'm calling Riker's Corner to tide you over until the next full episode of the podcast. In addition, follow us on Twitter at EVYD Black Men, Instagram at Everyday Black Men, and Facebook at the Everyday Black Men Facebook page. Today I am joined by several special guests. I'd like to first start with Boots, who is joining us again. Boots, got anything you want to say to the people?
Hi, people.
I'm also joined by the Rider.
Vroom vroom.
Vroom vroom. I need more than that. I need more. And last but not least, we have Fortunate.
What up, everybody? You know me. Don't
Just
know nothing,
kidding.
don't do nothing.
We also have Stylish, want to say something to the people?
Yeah, what's so special about all these guests? Especially me. Oh, I'm just kidding. No, you guys are great. You go.
He's terrible. But we have a special edition of the Everyday Black Men podcast. In this edition, we're going to talk about Father's Day, what fathers mean to us. Are black fathers under attack? And where are the black fathers at? It's a really important thing. Yes, we have one black father with us here, man. Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm just going to clap over here.
Yes,
over here to the side of the mic.
It is not an easy task.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't sound like an easy task. You know, someone who wants to be a father one day, I definitely understand that you go through many hurdles, many obstacles. Raising children is essentially like playing a game of poker that you can't lose and having somebody else be dealt all the good cards.
I don't know. It feels like trying to tie your shoes while somebody is slamming your same foot into the door. It's just a horrible situation, but you love all the moments at the same time. So, I don't know. It's a lot to it, man. I don't want to be the one to tell you how to be a father because you just can't. You're gonna figure it out your own way. That's not what I'm here to do at all. But it's a lot of challenges to it, man. It's a lot of challenges to it. And I hope most fathers, well, I guess we're about to discuss that. Where are all the fathers? Do y'all feel like they all disappeared? Do you feel like people are...
Actually, the ironic part is that it is, they're always around. It's just that you don't see them, and that's because they're not advertised. But they are around. Black fathers are around. Fathers are around, and the funny part is, like, black men have a stereotype of not being around, but it's in all forms, white, Hispanic, Mexican. There are deadbeat dads everywhere. It's just that the one that is always stereotyped is the black man, because it's like, oh, black man, prison pipe system, go to prison, and the father's not there, then deadbeat dad. And it's not the case.
Right.
It's not.
No,
was it the case at one point in time, though? Was it the case at one point in time? Was that the case?
I mean,
no.
do you want to go into it? No, let's go straight into it.
Because, I mean, okay, this is what I'm saying. Because I feel the whole thing that it's not being advertised, and I do think black fathers are around, but it all came from something. To deny where it came from would be doing ourselves a disservice as to what actually happened to us. Because why were the black fathers missing? Because they couldn't get the jobs, they're robbed, they're doing all kind of shit, getting them locked up, killed, shot, hung.
Ultimately,
all
right,
that
it
shit.
was the prison system.
Well, no. Y'all are missing a historically accurate point.
Okay.
So let's take this back. Slavery ends. So once you got your freedom, you didn't really get your freedom. What you were allowed to do is you're allowed to pick up your shit and hopefully move somewhere else. Now, if you're a black person, do you really think that you had means to secure land and a shelter for your family?
No, you had nothing.
You had shit. So what you
And
do
you're still
is
being chased by white folks.
yeah, there were still white people who were still trying to put niggas in chains. So they did this via a few different vehicles. The first, they said that if you're out after a certain time, you're going to jail. I think we all know what jail is. 13th Amendment, as much as everybody's like, oh, 13th Amendment. No, it didn't end slavery. 13th Amendment just said slavery can only happen if you're enchained. And you know what America likes to do? Put niggas in chains. So that's what they would do. They would put out curfews for you. The second thing is that they started that man in the house rule bullshit. So if you are like having a family or something like that, it's like, oh, you want to actually provide for your family? Well, now the white folks ain't gonna give you no jobs because you ain't our boy no more. So if we did let you have a shack or a hut, or you just managed to piece some shit together using some land that nobody was claiming right now, cool. but you can't get any government assistance unless there's no man in the house. So the father has to go, which runs back to the first thing I said, which is, oh, now you're out after dark, boy, you're going to jail. And then third, but not least, they would put niggas in jail by doing curfews. That's something that we don't like to talk about.
Was that a part of the black codes? I think it's called the black codes.
Well, that was a part of that was what kind of led to the black codes. Okay. Was that you had the certain things where it's like you can't be at a certain place, you can't have looked at a white woman, you can't have been in the wrong place of time at the wrong whatever. A lot of those ice cream cone bullshit laws.
That was pre-Jim Crow.
Well, no, it's the first version of Jim Crow. Jim Crow was a revitalized version of the black codes and all this other stuff that happened. So this crazy
back and got their shit together. Like, no, let's do this prejudice thing the right way.
No, you're right. That's exactly what happened. So you layer this together, and now it's the early 1920s, 1930s, and so you begin having this situation where not all black families are without fathers, but 25% are. And then the more the welfare system and the more state assistance comes into play, the fewer and fewer black men you begin seeing in the household. And then you get to the 60s, 70s, free love.
But you also have to take into account what does it mean by having a parent there. Because you can have a parent there financially, you can have them there part-time, you can have them there full-time. Now, those numbers are drastically different. I probably would agree with you, 80% of fathers are there. But let's be honest, if you're going to do the job, you should do it what? Right. Exactly. So how many of those fathers are doing it right, are being there with their kids, showing them and raising them, and showing them how to be good people? And that percentage, I would think, changed. Now, that I actually don't know.
Nobody has numbers on that because that goes across parents in general. Because there's plenty of women who never left the house but been checked out mentally for years.
You're right about that.
You're right about that. Kids are doing because they can't handle it anymore, being that they are the only parent, and they go through points where they just don't give a damn what the kid is doing.
I don't think that's necessarily the case either when it comes to that, but that's a whole different topic.
What you mean? You think that?
I think they checked out as soon as they had that baby.
Well, I mean, that's true too.
That's true too. But every parent that I've seen that's a single mom that's busting their behind, and when the child is 9, 12, 13, they're in it for the long haul. Now, in the beginning, when they checked out, you could tell that they've got darn.
Well, I'm saying you could be in it for the long haul, but also realize what you can handle for the long haul. I can handle making sure I got a roof over your head until you graduate from this goddamn house. I can't handle getting into your beefs that you got at school and trying to teach you how to do this. Like, there's a capacity as a human being. Everybody is different. It's not mother, father. It's this person, human being. What capacity can you handle? And everybody deals with it. So I don't think it's one person we can say black fathers or mothers or anything to say they're not there all the way. Everybody has their own capacity of what they can actually deal with. And it hits people differently, I'm telling you.
Well, no, you're right. It does hit people differently when it goes to what capacity you have for raising kids to a specific point, and whether or not the person that you're yoked with, whether they're moving it past that point, or they got, I can handle X, Y, Z, the, stuff that's going on at school, if you'll handle the internal discipline and getting those things taken care of. But going back to the black codes, I mean, that sets up a family structure where now we've got all this infighting. Like Jordan Peele's next movie, Us, is definitely going to center on a black family, a black relationship, a black whatever. I don't know how the horror movie aspect of that's going to be done, but I mean, he did Get Out, so this man's got 3 passes in the hood.
I'm definitely going to see that.
Definitely. But again, when it comes to fathers, if we set up this expectation for the last 100+ years that the fathers really aren't going to be there, it is so hard to find a father. And then especially if you've got someone who doesn't have kids that are yours, like that's a whole nother dynamic that we really don't talk about. So when we have these fathers that are MIA, I mean, are they MIA because they're dead? Because we don't like to talk about, the war on black men, because there's definitely a war on black women. We don't want to downplay that at all. But there is a huge war on black men and getting black men out of the household. Some would say to feminize black men. That one I think is debatable. But the bigger war is a war on black men and on making sure that either you're not here, you're in chains, or you're not able to provide for your family in the capacity that you should.
The biggest thing with the war would be the perception. where this whole, black men aren't good fathers or they don't stick around is still being perpetuated, although the numbers I'm pretty sure changed a long time ago. If it was being, the data was being compiled on every family or whatever, there would be a large uptick in the amount of black fathers that stick around. But that data and the perception that's out there, they don't want that to change. That's the first fight against the black man, because you know why? Perception is everything.
Perception is reality.
Perception is reality. So let's keep that stigma out there. We're still going to be killing them in the streets and taking them down for bullshit and pulling them over. But I'm also going to make sure that most women in the world and most other cultures believe that black men ain't shit when it comes to their kids as well, which is also going to be a detriment to anyone trying to either be in a relationship with them or help them or look at them a certain way. That perception is the first strike against. Well, not the first, but one of the main ones that continues.
It's the first. Because
perception is the first thing that you go to. Everything else is second.
Yeah, because the perception films the stereotype. Because whether we like to say it or not, when you walk into a room with someone, if you look at that guy, you see he's Hispanic, or that woman's, she's Asian, or this other person over here, he's Caucasian. You have an idea about them, right, especially depending on what they're wearing, what they kind of look like. You're not going to look at the Spanish guy who's got tattoos all over his face and a 6'9" or 8 or some other bullshit, or MS-13 tattooed on the side of his head, the same way you're going to look at the same Spanish guy, but now he's got on a turtleneck, he's got some glasses on. Yeah. Like, perception is it. But also, by looking at the Spanish guy, you don't think that he speaks Spanish. Like, a lot of people do not speak their native language, or maybe they speak something completely different. Yeah. But you'll never know that, because initially, you're going to look at that person and think, all right, Hispanic guy probably speaks Spanish. Or you might even do like I just did. That was a stereotype. I called him Spanish. Right. He could be several other different things. That's true, too. And he's not. But when you see black men, when we go and we look at, interracial dating or things like that, and we're not going to get into the whole black men don't date black women thing, because that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, one of the biggest things is that when you see a black man as a woman, you're looking at him and you're judging, okay, is this guy someone who I could have kids with? And is this someone who I think will be a provider? And you have that negative stereotype that may be, depending on what your upbringing is like or who you dated, something that goes in.
That destroys the family structure before it even started, because the woman already doesn't trust the black man based off of preconceived notions from perceptions that's been going out forever. So before the relationship even started or the kids are born, you already don't trust that he's going to do the right thing. You already believe he's going to run or not live up to what you deem a father should be from the get-go, because of this perception that's been going on forever.
But let's ask, Boots, what do you feel on this? What do you think?
As the only woman in the room, I'm thinking back to my single days. I don't think I've ever met a man and thought, what kind of a father would he be, just from the first look.
Well, when you get into that point in a relationship, you're thinking about it.
Yes, in a relationship, yes. But not, I see you and I'm thinking he was going to be a great father or not, because, like, I remember interacting with people who probably would be dressed a certain way. Maybe because my background, my family members, a lot of them are contractors and home builders. So they look really grungy and dirty, but I know they have money. So maybe that changed my perception. But I don't associate a suit and tie with money. Right. I know a lot of grungy people who do some, more manual labor, who bring home over $100,000 a year. Yes.
Okay.
But that goes back to my background. So I can only speak to my own background.
And your background is.
Well, that's just. I'm not even gonna say, like, it just goes back to what my parents did.
It's not a typical.
It's not a typical situation. Yeah. Well, it's not a typical American background.
I want to get.
He wants to know how you came to have this point of view.
This
like, did you grow up?
Like I said, my pretty much all of my uncles have physically demanding jobs, but they have their own businesses, and we all
in America,
both in America and abroad.
Okay, so you have more of a
it's a worldview. It's a
worldview.
I have.
So my question is, do you carry that same thought, or have heard it enough to think the same thing that everyone else seem to perceive black men as not being
No.
there for their family.
No, because I'll just say it. I grew up in Jamaica, and so all the men I saw were black,
And they were being fathers.
and they were being fathers.
Right.
So I didn't have any other black men are doing this compared to other men. All the men I knew were black, and yeah, there were some people in my family who, or even just around who, had gone to jail for whatever reason. And
Or were deadbeats, maybe?
Yeah, but it wasn't like a black man is a deadbeat compared to who.
Right,
it was
right,
just
right.
some fathers are
He's a
deadbeats.
deadbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, some fathers are deadbeats and some
Makes sense.
fathers aren't. And that's just
That's
what
just
it
the way
is.
There's people
It
like
wasn't.
that out
Yeah,
there,
it
which
wasn't
is
a
true.
comparison between black men and white men or Hispanic men or anything
See,
like
now that's
that.
the
So
thing.
that possibly didn't affect the way that I view things. And also, when I was younger, I wasn't thinking about marriage and kids.
Right.
I was focused on me. And when I got to the point where I was thinking about marriage and kids, then I was looking for somebody who had those qualities, but I wasn't looking for that until I wasn't looking for that until I met the person that I knew I wanted to do that with.
Right.
So
See, 'cause
my perception is going to be different, and I can't speak for every other woman.
No,
or
that's
black
that's-
woman.
that's
No,
good.
but she,
It's good to
I
know.
think that she actually is speaking on a general term. You just gotta, pick it up in the right way. She has her perspective on the situation, and that's her perspective. But there are different versions of the perspective out there, and your culture and your upbringing do shape your
does.
perspective.
It does.
Because I will say, for a lot of American women that I have encountered, they generally don't think about the husband thing. They just happen to stumble on it, and then they're like, okay, then he's a deadbeat dad. And then you keep hearing these stories. But, it's the father is a two-stage. Well, basically, there's two main factors that play into it. Number one, does the guy aspire to be a father? Two, does he have a role model to shape that fatherhood that he has? Because if not, you're starting from scratch. And we are all human beings. We all make mistakes, and that's how we learn and grow and be better. But not everybody wants to grow, learn, and be better, and not, everybody wants to do that. And also, we have another problem, too, when it comes to, saying that black guys are deadbeats, because believe it or not, there are some of them out there. They do get played, and that's why the stereotype is still prevalently there. But I will say, because I gave this dude so much props, never even met him, heard him on the phone talking to his kids, because I was Ubering one time, picked up a lady, her 2 children, and she was dropping off at school, and she was going to drop her back home, right? The father was on the phone. He was working. I think he was away out of state, and he's sitting there talking to the children. The children are like, "We love you, Daddy. Daddy, when you coming home? Daddy, we miss you." Like, what did this dude do to get this type of attention? Normally, the kids like, "Oh, I want mommy." No, they were like, "Mommy here. No, we don't want. We want Daddy." And there was one boy, one girl, and it's like, how'd you do that? Like, literally, because most guys, I'm not like, the children aren't pining after mommy. They're pining after daddy. So, that is really something that was great, and I did compliment the man on afterwards.
Great. I mean, it is
and
great.
I told the girlfriend, I was like, yo, man, he's father of the year. Like, that is amazing.
But
and I wish you
think-
could be advertised more.
No, go ahead, Boo.
I think kind of what you're saying is that I think that every dad or every male or that is absentee is not a deadbeat. Like, you could be away from your kids for whatever reason and still very much be in their lives, especially in 2018 when we have FaceTime and every kid has their own cell phone. And there was actually a rapper, I won't say his name, and he doesn't have a good relationship with his daughter's mom, and she has
I'm not gonna call
their
it.
yes, but the little girl's of age, and so he actually doesn't speak to her. And I'm not commenting on their situation, but he's just like, I call my daughter. No, I call my daughter, and we make arrangements, and I talk to the nanny, and we are both in their life, and we're co-parenting the best we can. And it might not be ideal, but at the end of the day, she sees her mom and she sees her dad, and it probably would be great if she could see them communicate and work as a team. But right now, that's not happening.
Well,
so they're co-parenting, but I wouldn't say either parent is absent, and the little girl sees both of her parents, like, pretty frequently.
But that perception that's out there, I think that perception doesn't even cover those type of situations. That perception is defining one thing. The man who has the child leaves and isn't heard from or run into him 15 years
you're,
later.
You're taking.
No, see, you're going
So-
you're deadbeat.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what I think that perception.
that
defines
perception is
that.
painted
Yeah.
by, and I'm gonna say it's painted by Hollywood,
Right.
right?
I
think
would
it's
say
painted
more
by
media,
Hollywood
media.
and
Media,
media. Okay,
it's
it's
media.
painted in the media, and it's we write a million stories about that because that's how we want to perceive black men generally. Because how many movies can we list where there's an absentee white father, even though that's just as popular, right? Because the lower income white man has the same issues as far as issues with alcoholism and all the other stuff. So I completely agree with Fortunate as far as that's not a broad thing that is advertised and that's made whatever. But I will say this, that the media isn't out to promote positive black images, period. Man, woman, neither, right? So they're not gonna paint a positive black image. I think it's up to us at some point to realize that this game ain't ours. We just so happen to be a part of it. And I think us as black people, we're just gonna have to, deal with our stuff until they catch up with it, because we can do what we can to change that image. But if you know in your life that you have positive male figures, that's what you need to promote. And that's what we need to teach our kids, and that's what we need to. And I'm gonna cut into one other really brief topic. And as a woman, I'm gonna take some ownership for it, even though I don't have kids and I don't do this personally. But women out there who are being petty for reasons, if the guy left you, now you have a child, and that's the only thing you have to kind of be mean to him in whatever way, it doesn't help.
Definitely not.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't help.
not. He
So
should.
just, do what you can to get over your hurt, and let's just get it together.
But
Yeah,
you
definitely.
touched on a really good point, and I'm going to probably take it to more of a broader thing, whereas in the situation happens, there's a lot of external factors that influence the situation, perception, we're talking about being one of them. But at a certain point, we have to take ownership in what's going on and playing the game to where we come out ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the game is not in our favor, we are at a
Game's not rigged for us.
disadvantage,
Yep.
we can still win. It's a game, and every game has rules. Rules can be played, and you can play to win. You can play not only to get yourself ahead, but you can get your community ahead. You can get people around you, your environment, your family ahead. But right now, as a society, and as a black society, because I always ask people this all the time, what happened to the 60s? The 60s where black unity was at an all-time high. 70s and 80s, it disappeared. 90s, it was about just money and grinding. But in the 90s to 2000, it got worse, whereas it just came about one's money, your own money. You will screw over somebody else for your own money. And it happened, and it imploded in the black community. And the father thing, it was attached to that.
Right.
And basically, if you look at traditional, let's say, couples in marriage and how that's supposed to go, when you look at the man's role, the father's role is supposed to lead, have that vision for the household, have that vision for the community. And when that, again, is not there, where do you end up? You don't have a path to follow. And that's, again, tying into everything. So that's something to take account too. But we have to take accountability now in saying, this is where we are. Where do we want to go? Do we want this stereotype on us? Do we not want to have a path? Do we want our future to just fend for themselves, or do we want them to build on something so that we can start a legacy that goes on into the future? Not just about black men, but about humanity, because we are a part of humanity. We're not just,
We're not
See,
just black.
I'm at the
Yeah.
I'm at the end
we're
that right
definitely not
there
just black.
because the bigger thing for me is just the black thing. So I'm gonna take this to a personal level.
Oh,
And so to personalize it, so my mother could have done what Boots was talking about, Ryder, but my mother chose not to, even though her and my dad did not end up being together for the long haul. My mother made certain that she used every opportunity that she could to make sure that we got time to spend with our father. Now, it got a little bit harder, a little bit later when he went to jail, but here nor there, the bigger thing is even when he was in a situation that's as messed up as that, and that is as low as that, she still was like, y'all are going to visit him, I'm going to take you, we'll do whatever, but she wanted us to establish a relationship with him. because she understood that it takes two people to raise a kid, and if you do not have any interaction with your father after a certain point, you probably are not going to become the kind of man that you want to be, or the man that she would want you to be. So I definitely give shout outs to my mom, but I also give shout out to my dad. Like, he was like, look, like, son, I done fucked up. This is something in a path I don't want to ever, I don't ever want these roles to be reversed. I did some things, I'm now having to pay for that, but I want you to learn from that so that nothing goes in and that nothing happens to you at all. But it's a bigger problem in the black community that we don't have that kind of thing going on anymore, where people are willing to take a loss on one instance and be like, you know what, this relationship is dead. It's not going anywhere. It's not gonna happen. But we did have this child together, and I want you to be in your child's life, because I know plenty of men who turn out to be ain't shit, but I know very few of them who are in, two-parent households who end up being not shit. I know many women who are whatever negative connotation you want to use. I'm not going to put one out there because, we already do enough against women, and I'm trying to make certain that Everyday Black Man podcast, we speak about the uplifting of black people. I mean, those other races, they're going to do all right. We do cape for Asians sometimes, and of course sometimes Latinos. But, and of course, every time for the native people of this region. And if you don't like that, fuck you. But one thing that we definitely need to do is that when we are raising up women, keeping that, following that life, it leads to hopefully her having a more balanced life. Because I know a lot of women who the only attention that they got was their mothers, so they never leave that. Or they're always looking for a father figure because they didn't have that. If you have a more balanced thing, you can be like, look, this is the game. This is what boys are going to do. This is what men want. It's all about that one thing, Lauryn Hill to the maximum. But we need to keep that kind of stuff alive and keep it going on. But, Fortune, I think you were about to say something?
I do have something.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ryder. Go ahead, Ryder.
I have something to add on to that.
All black people don't look like you.
Right. What's going on here?
The one thing that I do want to say that I find is very detrimental in my life when it comes to being raised is mistakes. I find them very, very important, and it actually helps shape me as a man and what I want to do. I got to look and realize this is a person I don't want to be. So I constructively worked on that, focusing on not being that. And like with your father, because my father, not similar story. He was in my life. He did what he had to do to the best of his ability, but it wasn't enough. But it was at the same time, because I got to learn about mistakes, about when you do this, you can have hopes and aspirations, but if you don't put in the work and the time and the money, it's not going to happen. And I learned from those mistakes, and me moving forward, I want to teach other people, especially young black men, because as a man, that's what you're supposed to do. It's about passing the mantle on, passing the baton on to the next generation. Yeah. That is something that is a part of a man, regardless if you're black, Hispanic, Latino, whatever. You pass that baton. That's the definition of a man. And I learned that, through my father, even though that he did fumble. But at the same time, I couldn't thank him for it, too, because he's taught me in a very important lesson.
He fumbled, but you caught that baton.
I did. And even though that he wanted to pass on something, just didn't know how to pass on, I now learned and took that baton, and now I'm running with it, changing it, and actually making the baton better, so when I pass on to the next generation, the grip is better. It comes with knowledge and information. It comes with, aspirations. It also comes with an important message. Your journey is your journey. Find your way. Yeah. But when you're there, we will be there to support you. We will help you be the best you can be so that we can be better as a society. So it was really great that you said that, learning about your father and how important it is. Because even then, a father that you consider as a deadbeat, he's a lesson to the child on, this is another type of human being that's out there. Which one are you going to be? Right. Everybody has to make that choice. You can't just say, oh, you're a child, you're my child, so you're going to do this. We all like to do that as parents, even in people in this room. You want your children to be good, but they have to make that choice. It's on them to make that choice. They're a human being.
There's examples that's out there, and that's kind of how my situation went. It was, this is the example. Do you want to be that or not? I had to choose. No, I don't want to be that. I want to be there. constantly involved in my kids' lives. And that's the choice that I made because that's not what I got. Like, this shit is this is a deep kind of conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, like it starts to hit you in places
It's the heart,
that you
baby.
don't really understand.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been through some things. I've talked to my father, and he apologized to me recently. Let's say the last 3 years, I had a conversation when he apologized for me not being there and stuff like that. And I didn't even know how to take that. How do I respond to you at this point? Because at this point,
And it's already done, man. What
you
are
know,
you talking about? You
it's already
sorry.
done. I've been through a lot of stuff with my own father, my uncle, who I kind of looked at as a father figure, who taught me a lot of the things of manhood. Passed away.
Yeah.
In earlier this year, and it's a touchy situation for me because with all of that going on, I'm also struggling to figure out I don't want to be that.
But what do you want?
What exactly do I want to be? I know I don't want to be that. So
Well, you're a beacon, though. You're a beacon. I know you don't see it, but having known you for more than 6 years at this point in time, I know that when I look at how I want to become a father, I look at you, Fortune.
But you don't see everything.
No, I don't see everything.
You don't see
but
everything.
But I've seen you
the
fumble.
most important part, and the most
I've seen
important
you
part
fumble.
is the aspiration to be better, an aspiration to say, "Hey, look, I want you kids to look at something and to there's many things that are out in the world. Oh, I'm not good, but I want you to take this, and I want you to see this value that I'm doing." And to it's actually hard to put into words, but let's say to have this idea, the mentality to whereas if you work hard, you'll accomplish something. And right now you're working with your kids to saying, hey, being a person, being a good human being, it gets you somewhere. And that's what you're showing them through all of your trials and tribulations. And trust me, it's hard because actually the funny part is too, relating to what I know, because even all of us in this room, we've all had father figures, but that weren't necessarily fathers. And you said that your uncle was one of the father figures. Yeah. My uncle actually was a father figure too, and my mom knew that you just can't raise, sons without a father. You need some type of a male figure to actually, have someone to look up to and to learn from. And I did. I looked up to him for a while, then I learned from him. And then actually it's really funny too. When you look at somebody and you really truly learn about them and who they are, you tend to change if you look up to him or not. You kind of acknowledge him as a human being. Right. You're good, but he's like, I don't want to be you. I want to be better, or I want to be different.
I can take
and
the lessons you taught.
Yeah, the lessons
you
taught me, and I can apply
those. But that's
that.
exactly what I'm talking about. Like, Fortune, I've seen you fumble. And when I say that, you know exactly what incident I'm talking about. But that's one of those things where you look at it and you look at somebody who's like, he made a mistake. This could be career ending for his relationship. Yeah. This could destroy everything that he has built up to this point.
But he picked himself up and he kept
you picked yourself up and you acknowledge that you made a mistake. You didn't go through and say, hey, this is just kind of whatever. You said, look, I'm going to go back to the baseboard. Like, what brought me to this place in the first place? How do I learn from all of that? How do I get up from there? And how do I keep it going? Because that's the bigger thing. Is if you're just kind of doing whatever, it don't really matter. But if you're not, and you just kind of fuck it, it is what it is, it ain't what it ain't, I don't care, then it ends up like it ends up.
You never want to do that. I mean, I look back, and I always said to myself, I'm going to be the type of father that's there for my children, and through my action or lack of action, there will be a lesson. Because lack of action could be a lesson. Everything is a lesson. So the more time you spend, the more lessons they can pick up. Yeah. But you can't force them. They're going to pick up what they pick up, how they pick it up, and when they're ready to pick it up. Unfortunately, that's one of the things, the hardest thing to learn as a parent, that you can't force your child to be anybody but who they're going to be, no matter how hard you work on them, no matter how you set them up, no matter how much energy you put into them. They're only going to be who they belong,
supposed to be.
Who they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And what you're going to show them is options of things that they can become, or ways that they can act, and they're going to have to make their own decisions as to, he said always have manners and stuff like that, and I don't think I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to do something different. And then 2 years later, like, I think he was right, and I'm going to go back the other way. But they could just say, I'm just keep doing this and go to jail. It's all up to them and how they...
Fuck you, officer.
You know what I'm saying? It's how they develop. So all you can do is show them, and the only way you can do that is by being there. So
being the example, too.
Being the example, being there. And I don't know, man. I didn't think this conversation was gonna go this way. And I'm thinking about some things I never thought I was gonna think about.
But that's good because I wanted this to touch you. I wanted this to be a
Touch
real,
everybody,
actual
Yeah,
conversation, not just some stuff where we just throw things across and it's just light little platitude here, light little affirmation there.
Right.
Everyday black men everywhere.
No, and that's another thing. Going all the way back to the beginning with the perception, this is what bothers me. Because why are we okay with this perception being out there when there's men out there like myself who plan on being the best father they can be? Who want to be...
And you got the deadbeat ones that are like, nah, I'm stuck on being a deadbeat.
Right, and you can
But
be that over there, and we can give you some numbers. Let's say 15% over there, but don't forget about the 85 over here who doing what they supposed to be. Because I know some fathers. I know fathers who take care, fathers that I look up to are like, I'm trying to be like him. Like, damn, how do you do all of that? Like, I know fathers that I think are way better fathers than me, and I'm like, I don't like that perception that everybody's a deadbeat.
You're right.
dad.
You're right, Fortune. With Boots.
I think that was kind of going back to my original,
Point.
statement. Thank you. Point is they're gonna paint us however they want to paint us. It's up to us, and hopefully we'll have a large viewership of people who can realize that the media is gonna portray things however they want to, whatever kind of fits their narrative at the time or whatever. We know better, and that's what's important. I think it's up to people to just know better. Yes, there are going to be fathers who don't, and let's not even use the word deadbeat. They're not showing up in the way that we want them to, whether it's financially or whether they physically can't, or whether they they can't because they're in jail or they're just not around for whatever reason, right? That doesn't, let's not even use the word deadbeat. They're not around for whatever reason. There's gonna always be that. There's moms. I know a mother of 6 who's a deadbeat, and I'm using air quotes. Y'all can't see me. But no one talks about that person's a deadbeat. There's no child support in order. There's no bad. I mean, there is negative connotation, but it's not the way that you are if it was a man who was showing the same kind of behavior.
Exactly.
So
what's the reason for that, though?
yes.
What's the reason for that, Stalin?
What is the
change
reason?
the narrative.
What is the reason?
Well,
Change the narrative.
Well, I mean, the reason is because it's usually the man who's away and not taking care of his family, So,
But that's the problem.
Yeah.
The fact that you're saying it's usually the man who's away
because
not
that's
taking
how
care
it
of his
is,
family.
though. That mean, I mean, when it's that situation, I'm not saying like everyone is always doing it.
But I think it's more difficult for the woman to be away and not taking care of the family. Realistically, there are families where the grandparent takes care of the family and both of the parents are off.
Yeah.
But for me, if I get pregnant, the baby's gonna live inside of me. There are situations where the mom doesn't tell the dad about it. I have situations in my family where he didn't know about his son until he was, I think the gentleman I'm speaking of was in his 30s and he had kids of his own. That was a situation where they didn't know. There are situations where it's a casual sex type situation. It's not a relationship. So you don't follow up with everybody that you shot up their club 9 months later to make sure they're pregnant. So if you're a deadbeat dad for that reason, you didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And for whatever reason, the mom didn't make sure you knew. That's a whole nother situation. But it is more likely for a man to be absentee for biological reasons. But you saying it's more likely for a man to be absentee is the narrative that they're painting. Especially when you're thinking of like a black man.
It is a narrative, and it's the stereotype though. But I mean, that's how it is that's how it is a lot of times though. I know there's situations where women they're not taking care of their kids though, but usually a lot of times you have to kind of think of one though. Like everyone we know somebody who has like 9 kids or a bunch of kids, guys who are not taking care of their stuff though. I'm not saying that. Okay, that's
kind of my point too. Is like we do have people promoting the stereotype.
That's the
like,
problem. Like
we have to hold them accountable. Like,
we do.
You're doing all this stuff, but there are multiple ways to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
You got to call them out saying, "Hey, you're doing something wrong." But again, on the other side too,
We got to show up and represent.
Women, we got to show up and represent, but women too are also allowing the situation to happen. Like one time you're like, okay, pass, but 2, 3, 4, why are you falling for the same guy that doesn't have anything going for himself, and you keep at this and keep making babies? It's like, at what point is there an end? And then who's taking care of the babies? Ultimately, the taxpayer, because the taxpayer has to pay for this. Because if you don't fund that child, what are they going to get into? More likely they get into mischief. But even then, the mischief is still high because there is a figure that is missing. And honestly, to tell you the truth, a good figure is missing because the mom is not necessarily a good figure either if she's allowing the situation to keep happening over again. And then, of course, then the guy's not being, the man not being there, not being a man, so he's also contributing to a negative situation. But you do have children that do come out of there wonderful people because they're inspired, saying, I hated the way that I felt in this situation. I will never do this again. And then they actually go out there and inspire others to do better. So again, in misery, there is good. Sometimes. It just sucked though, but it does. But that takes an extraordinary person to go through that and to do that. But not everybody's extraordinary, as you were saying. People have breaking points, and other people have very low breaking points.
One second. Stylish. Go ahead, finish out your point, because I don't feel like
anyway,
you let you
didn't.
finish.
Well, yeah, I didn't really want to turn this into a blame game. Where it's like, okay, men is not doing what they're supposed to do, women are not supposed to doing what they're supposed to do. But like, I guess all I'm saying was just that. I mean, I know the stereotype. It sucks out there that men, black men are deadbeats, though. But you believe some of it? No, I don't. I don't say I believe it though. I mean, there are some men that are, and some men that aren't though. But it's sometimes stereotypes exist for a certain reason. Sometimes,
Right. Okay, no.
I'm not gonna say, but yeah.
So, what is the reason why this black stereotype, when it comes to deadbeat dads and generally black people, when you see a black man deadbeat dad, like why is that stereotype out there? Why do you think it's out there?
I mean,
great question, Ryder.
Just like just like you guys were saying before, it is kind of a media thing though. It's very, I don't know. It probably definitely goes further back than what we're talking about right now though. But it's a very popular stereotype to put on black man. That's why I keep perpetuating this stuff too though, because nobody wants to hear about like the positive black man taking care of his only daughter, combing her hair, like doing stuff that usually a mother would do or something or. Nobody wants to hear about it. It's not that interesting. Well, you want to hear about like Troy over here who's not who's just screwing up.
Or this fucking Troy.
Troy?
No. Sorry. Continue, Styles. Continue.
Nobody wants to hear about. I mean, but I don't know. It's a little bit more eye catching to see. Like, another black man fucked up.
But is it really? Is it
really
eye catching?
I don't know if it's eye catching. I think it's a part of our culture that certain things aren't looked at as cool.
Yeah, that's probably. I would say more of that versus.
You're talking about combing the daughter's hair and stuff like that.
Put
that on Twitter. Put a picture of that on Twitter. How many likes you gonna get?
You're not gonna get.
Put somebody. You
will
shit
get
out of somebody.
Yeah, how much likes you gonna
get?
get?
Yeah.
No. You're right.
Knowing both of them niggas going to jail.
It ain't just like white people looking at it. It's everybody. Everyone's looking at it. They're sharing it. They pass it along. We see it even in the group chat. We're posting fight pictures, fight videos and stuff. And then we're all like, look at this right here,
Guilty.
And then you post something.
That was all Styles.
You post something positive, and everyone's kind of like, everybody's sitting there, it's like, okay.
Not too many comments. You know what I'm saying?
Like, yeah.
Why are people afraid to take positive situations that they see and build on it and conversate about that as opposed to
and perpetuate it and put it out there and actually want it to spread?
Right.
Yeah.
No, what's wrong with us?
No, fortunate. That is a great point.
I can't let this end without me saying one thing. It's gonna take me 1 minute. I'm a solutions-oriented person. Okay? When I see a problem, I automatically start thinking, what can you do to fix it? How do you change or correct the situation? In this situation, we're talking about the whatever the fuck that word is.
Preparation.
No. The perception and perpetuating the fact that black men are bad fathers
we need to knock that out.
What's the solution to that? I don't have one, but I do know something that makes me think could be the beginning of it. I don't even know the name of the show, but it's on BET. It's like Black Love or something like that. And they show relationships between Black Love. That's the type of thing that we should be perpetuating. We should be supporting. And I'm not saying that's going to be the answer, but it's the beginning of something. And I wanted to put that out there to get anybody listening to start
Thinking.
spinning heads,
Yeah.
thinking about, okay, that's one positive representation of family values that we have on television. Because Cosby Show ain't on no more, Family Matters ain't on no more.
Yeah.
Like none of this shit is on there no more. So
Blackish is getting divorced.
I saw. You didn't see the end?
No. Oh, sorry. Spoiler alert.
Okay.
Never mind.
I already saw the end. I'm just saying. Anyway,
Black everyday
What?
black man
Hold up,
spoiling
hold up.
stuff.
Check it out.
Alright.
Check it out.
My boy, that's
You got
all.
20
That's all
seconds.
I'm saying.
Wrap it
all
up.
I'm
Put
saying
a bow on it.
is the solution may be easier than we're making it. It's
Yeah.
just everyone has to be on board and want those things. Great example, the Black Love Show. Take a look at it, support that type of situation, and want to see more of that, which could stem into black families and fathers.
And hopefully,
Our culture,
and hopefully
basically.
stuff like that becomes like more cool and people see it as more normal.
Acceptable. Yeah.
Yeah, more
normal.
acceptable. Kind of like the Cosby Show. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, we need more stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I guess now I'm hearing that.
Whoa, one more. Oh, bullshit.
You're full of shit. But anyway, man, this has been another great episode of the Everyday Black Man podcast. I really appreciate my special guest, Stylish, Fortunate, the Rider, and Boots. Thanks again, everybody, for going ahead and coming down. Again, you can always follow us on the Everyday Black Man Facebook page, also on Stitch, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google, soon coming to Spotify. And you can always catch us on Twitter at EVYD Black Men on Twitter. EVYD Black Men. Thanks again, and y'all have yourselves a great week.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.